When the New York Times broke the news last week that Donald Trump's former CFO, Alan Weisselberg, was negotiating with the Manhattan DA's office to plead guilty to perjury in Trump's civil fraud case, well, it raised questions about whether this might be causing Judge Arthur Engoron, the judge presiding over that case, to delay his final ruling as to whether Donald Trump will potentially shell out $370 million or more for committing fraud. Today, we kind of got an answer. In an email sent on Monday, Judge Engoron wrote to Trump's lawyers about the Times reporting and suggested this plea deal might change the timing of Judge Engoron's decision. Okay, so why is Rebecca Roiphe, sorry, just going right to a former assistant DA in the Manhattan DA's office. Rebecca, I'm already ahead on our questioning. Why is Judge Engoron asking Trump's lawyers to respond to this Weisselberg potential plea?
Well, because they are in a position to know whether or not, in fact, it's true that he lied on the stand. And if he lied on the stand, this obviously has a huge impact on the judge's evaluation of the testimony and the case itself. And even though the alleged perjury may be about some small part of that testimony, the judge says, maybe I have to discount all of his testimony because somebody who lies about one thing could lie about everything, exactly.
And Weisselberg is a key defense witness in Engoron's trial, isn't he? Is he not?
Yes. I mean, he is an important witness, and he, testified as to a lot of the alleged valuations that were supposedly exaggerated in order to get a benefit in these loans. Is
this the kind of thing that would potentially move Judge Engoron to increase the sort of fine, if you will? We know he's looking at $370 million fine here in this civil fraud trial.
Right. I mean, it's complicated because that fine is going to be based a lot on these expert, assessments of how much damage was done. But I think, yes, in terms of his ultimate finding of the extent to which this fraud occurred. And if he finds that this was massive, then of course, the fine can be massive.
The other piece of this that's interesting is the way all these cases are sort of collapsing in on each other a little bit. Can you talk about that unusual dynamic here?
Right. It's very interesting. First of all, I mean, we know that there's this ongoing case in Manhattan, a criminal case that's unrelated about the hush money payments. And so Alvin Bragg has that on his mind, even if Weisselberg is not going to be an important character witness in that case. That case is pending, and he wants to send a message that witnesses who lie have consequences. I mean, all prosecutors want to do that, especially in high-profile cases, and especially even more when there are even more high-profile cases that are pending. So there's that. There's also the fact that he was himself looking at these same facts that constitute the facts that made up the civil case and deciding whether to charge that criminally. I assume that he has moved on and decided not to, but that's always a possibility as well. So these cases are all going on, and there are so many of them. Sometimes you can forget about one when you focus on another, but...
Well, and let's just say Donald Trump showed up to the courtroom for the Engoron case because it involves his pocketbook,
right?
And that means it matters to him. Right. Rebecca Roiphe, see, you didn't even need an introduction. such a well-versed expert in all of this. I'm so appreciative of your time.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Rebecca.